Hey, hello. I'm so excited to welcome Abby McKendry, marketing and messaging coach, to Soulpreneur Scaling Stories today. Hey, Abby, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm really good, thank you. Very, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay. So, we're going to get into lots of fun stuff today. And I wanted to start out before we even dive into anything is when you had filled out my little application and said, okay, what's your story? You had talked about burnout. Like burnout was a key,
hmm
was a key thing in your application. So so first of all, so that's what we're going to get into, but let's introduce yourself properly and tell
Okay.
us what you do in your business.
So I'm Abby. I'm a marketing and messaging coach for heart-centered entrepreneurs. So I provide coaching and mentorship for businesses looking to scale in a way, as I always say, that lights up your soul as well as your bank account. And I pivoted my business from done for you services, which ties into the burnout story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at the stages of my business now of really just centering in on that alignment and doing what I love and bringing that more alignment to everything to make sure that I do not hit burnout again and that that doesn't happen to my clients
This is music to my soul because yes, I can highly relate. So let's talk about it. Let's dive into some of the juicy stuff like right off the bat. So
either.
let's so let's talk about the done for you burnout. Paint us the picture. What was going on in your business at that time?
So I got to a point. So when I started my business, I had no idea what online business entrepreneurship looked like. I come from a background in marketing. And the first thing that I saw when I looked into the online business space was being a virtual assistant. And I've
I
had
was
no
the same,
experience.
the exact
Were
same.
you?
Yeah, I was in my job as a nurse and I was like, what can I do where I can help people
Yeah.
that's location independent? And I came across a virtual, so I said, I can do that. Let's go. Like, yeah.
Exactly. I think there was a whole wave of it a few years ago where being a virtual assistant was the thing. And so when you're like looking how to start an online business, that was the thing that came up like for you and me both, and I'm sure for a lot of other people.
Mhm.
And so I was like, yeah, I can do this. I was specifically a creative virtual assistant with my background in marketing and design. So I had no idea what to do. I jumped in with that and I grew quite quickly. And because I had no idea, I had no experience, no one around me in my personal life with experience of online business or entrepreneurship. I very much relied on other people's content and courses and things like that. And I quickly fell into a way because I was growing and I didn't know how to scale. I was consuming a lot of content, listening to a lot of other people. There were a lot of cookie cutter strategies flying around at that time. And so, not having the experience or knowledge, I did lean into that. And I started pivoting and growing my business in the way that I thought I should, and that the noise
Mhm.
online was telling me was the only way to be successful,
So
and that
quick question
success
for
looked
you.
like XYZ. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you in my body at this time? Because I did the same because there were and it's funny, and I think it's still the same. It's almost like it's the loudest voices, it's the ones you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
they have a lot of followers, so they must know what they're doing, or this, and I think that creates this like cyclone. It's like this funnel of people all kind of gravitating towards this one specific way that they say that this like one person, I don't know, somehow determined like this is the way that you grow a business when you're a service provider, period, end of
Mhm.
story. And I don't know, I don't know if it's just because now I've been, this was 2019 for me when I started. So now it's been a hot minute. And now I've been around, so much more and have really connected with people who are more like me and you and, about the alignment and doing what you actually should be doing in all of this. And that's why this is like my focus in life and I'm so passionate about it is like because of this and because of and again we're going to get into your story of the burnout because of the unhappiness. I even googled, this was like a couple months ago, I googled out of curiosity, how do you scale as a virtual assistant, and there was almost no information. It was just like have an agency and that was it, and I was
Wow.
flabbergasted. So so I don't know. Do you think that the landscape has changed a bit, or do you think we've just been here for a minute and we've found our people in terms of the cookie cutter advice and things like this?
I would like to say the landscape has changed,
Yeah, I hope
but
so.
as you
Yeah.
say, because we found our people, we found our audience, we do things in a way that feels aligned. We only teach certain methods in certain ways. I don't know if that impacts that. I feel like the landscape, the industry has changed,
Right.
or if it's just because we no longer focus on the outside noise and we're so certain in what we're doing.
Right.
I would like to say both because I'm sure that anyone with a business or even not with a business who consumes content knows that because of things like AI, celebrity endorsements, influencers over the past few years, because of the growth of that, as consumers, we are craving authenticity and connection more than ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to think that that has an impact on the online business space of how people are interacting with content and therefore how businesses are growing and what's being taught and what's being talked about. But as you say, I found my audience, I found my rhythm, I know what feels good for me. And so my vision of how the space is now may be impacted because I no longer listen to that outside noise. What do you think?
Right. No, I agree with you. I also, it was a really good point and a good reminder that yes, that even brands and influencers and all of this, there is a call towards being more authentic and not being so cookie cutter, to put it nicely. So I would like to think and hope that this carries over into the online space as well. And I do think there is a general trend towards this. People are tired of this perfection, this like, because they know it's fake. People, they know it's fake. Right. So, but along the same lines, right? Like I have my people, I like have this amazing community, and so it's like, oh, is it just my community? Or, what happens when people
Yeah.
are new nowadays? So I'm hoping that, people like us, there's just more and more people like us who are out there and more easily findable, for lack of better terms. So that way people know that there are alternative ways of doing things than just these ways that people tell you, quote unquote, have to. So let's go back into your
100%.
story about this, having to scale and grow and having no idea,
Mhm.
what to do and what was going on in that space. So go ahead and continue on with that.
Yeah, so it was that whole noise of that cookie cutter strategy, these perfect, almost like influencer like coaches and
Mm-hmm.
business owners who, as you say, have these tens of thousands of followers. And so when you're new to the space, you do instantly think, don't you? Oh, well, that must be how you be successful. They must know what they're talking about. And so you fall into this trap almost of buying these courses or coaching or whatever it is from somebody that maybe does just teach. For me anyway, my experience is someone that taught their way of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
the way that they got big, that maybe
Yep.
worked at that time. That doesn't work for everybody.
Yep.
But not only does it not work for everybody, it doesn't feel good for everybody. So I was consuming a lot of other people's content and comparing myself. And then, of course, I was going to these business owners with tens of thousands of followers that were teaching their very specific way of doing things. And sometimes that does work for people. That can be fine if that's your thing, but it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so
So
I
you're so sorry. I'm going
tried
to
to,
interrupt you again because this
yeah,
is
go
such
for
an
it.
important point, because it's not just with service providers. Like, so I'm also an online business manager, and I've had clients do similar programs where it's very step by step. This is how I got big.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you get big too. And them telling me they paid $10,000, like they paid all this money for these crazy big programs. And all the students inside the programs were complaining that it wasn't working. And back then, I was like, oh, that's interesting, like not really understanding perhaps
Mm-hmm.
100% why. But now I totally know why. One is because, like, it doesn't make any sense, right? If you step back and think about it, it doesn't make sense that for you to follow step by step of what somebody else does, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. It sounds good. It sounds like it could, mean that. But if their marketing is based on video or something, and like you're not that great at showing up on video, like it's not going to work for you. If, like there's so many little factors where it really is all about your unique magic and the thing like where you show up best. And what if their thing is like I had a client recently who did this whole launch thing with this big like launch coach, and it was so complicated for like she was miserable the whole time and sold less and did more work because it wasn't like it didn't align with her and how she wanted to show up in her energy. So it really is about like experimenting and playing around and finding the thing that you're aligned with, period. And it's not about these cookie cutter things. Like, yeah, it's great to learn, but it literally doesn't work. Like, I think for hardly anybody, I'm convinced of this, that like very few people actually get results. And I'm so surprised that there's so many of these programs and so many ones that are so successful, because I really, really in my soul believe that it doesn't work.
I think sometimes when you are part of a course or a community that does have these thousands and thousands of followers, it almost sometimes feels, especially if you're at the beginning of your journey, you have a smaller audience, it can feel intimidating to go against the grain and kind of say, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And so you almost, well, I personally felt like I felt there was something wrong with me
Right.
rather than the course that I was consuming of, oh,
100%.
well, this clearly works for her. It's worked for all these people that she has testimonials for.
Hmm.
Why isn't it working for me? It must be me.
Right.
But as you say, what aligns with us, what works for us, how we show up, our energy flows, it's different for everybody. And that's why cookie cutter strategies don't work for most people. And also, what I really discovered throughout this time of like burnout and trying to build my business in it, these strategies not working for me, as well as it being things that don't align and that don't work with like my energy and who I am as a person, these things didn't align with my vision of the kind of business that I want to create.
Yes.
And that's something that is so important for me with my clients, is that everyone's different. And we always do an exercise, no matter where somebody is when they come to work with me in their business, whether they've been in it for 2 months or 5 years, is almost like realigning and getting really clear on that vision of, why did I start my business? What do I want my life to look like? Because if I wanted to work 4-hour days and make, let's say, 10K months, can I do this with this cookie cutter strategy that has me showing up every single day, going on live every single day? Well, no, because that's not the kind of life that I want to create it. That's not
Yes.
my vision of success.
Yes.
So as you say, it's aligning it to who we are and how we work, but also what success looks like for us, because it's different for everybody, right?
You're like the marketing coaching side of my like we need to come together, because I have like literally I do the same thing and I love this. Like,
We
I'm so happy.
do, we
Yeah.
do.
I like start with your dream life vision. What is it that you want? What is your version of success? Like, we're this Abby.
We're so the same. I think it's because we have that shared experience that's been
Yeah.
so similar of how we've got to the point where we are now, that we know what it takes and we don't want other people to go through that. So like, I love that we're so aligned with that.
Yeah. So getting back, sorry, I'm just here for my own conversation.
No, I love it. Me too.
So, okay, so you're in this program, you're doing things that are not aligned with you.
Yes.
So, how does this lead to your burnout?
So I get to a place where I'm offering all these done for you services. I am on discovery calls all the time. I'm selling in a way that I'm taught, but it doesn't feel good to me. Every time I have to get on a discovery call, it feels icky. I don't follow the things I'm supposed to do because in my heart, in my soul, I just can't, because that's just not me as a person. And again, I start doubting myself of, oh, am I not made for this? Because this is the way we're supposed to do things, because this is what the online noise is saying. This is what these super successful people are saying. And so I tried to build my business in that way. I carried on like that for a while. And it just hit a point where I was so miserable because it didn't feel good. That vision of why I'd started my business, I wasn't living that. I was doing the opposite. And also I was just working so much and with strategies that didn't align to me, that didn't feel good for me. And I got to a point where I didn't even realize it was burnout at the time, but it built up and built up. And I was just exhausted. And it got to the point where I felt so miserable. I felt lethargic. I was getting ill all the time. I couldn't get out of bed. I felt every day just felt like this impending doom. And it was because I hadn't done things in a way that felt good for me, in a way that was creating the life that I wanted to create. And so I really had to like strip everything back and not start again because I'd learned so much, but really like redefine and realign my whole business
Okay.
and make sure that doesn't ever happen again.
Yeah, and I want to get into a little bit more detail in this time period, because I feel like a lot of people are teetering on this edge of burnout, and it can be difficult to recognize. So if you could share maybe some of the, if you recall, some of the starting, like the things that were kind of building up that you didn't realize were burnout at the time, but looking back, you're like, oh yeah, like this was not a good sign.
Sure. So I've experienced like high functioning anxiety my entire life, and it's something that I have always in my adult years pretty much had under control. There's been flare ups, and it's something that I just now know how to cope with. Um, and I felt that anxiety creeping in more and more and more, these bouts of anxiety where it was just so overwhelming. Normal things in my day-to-day life away from my business that wouldn't usually cause me anxiety, like getting on public transport, being in a crowded bar or store, these things that previously I had under control, I hadn't experienced for years, they started to creep in again. And I didn't make the connection. It was because I was so exhausted, I was so stressed, I was under so much pressure that it presented itself in this anxiety flare up that I hadn't experienced, that I'd had a handle on for so many years. That was kind of the first thing. And then I just noticed like my mood in terms of like me as a person.
Mm.
I didn't want to do the things I would usually do. I would wake up and I would feel numb almost, to a point where I I was just functioning on autopilot. I was turning up, doing XYZ for my business. I'd lost that passion. I didn't feel excited about my business anymore. I didn't feel that like excitement and desire that you have at the start, or, when you create a new offer, when you sign a new client. I was signing clients, I was making more money than I'd ever made, like in my corporate job or previously in my business. And it just felt numb. And it was those signs of like the anxiety, the lack of enjoyment and excitement, and me personally just feeling like a shell of a person.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, if I'd have known about burnout and what it was, I could have spotted that a lot earlier. But unfortunately, it got to the point where I kind of just crashed, and I had to take like 3 months out of my business to really rebuild and for my mental health and to get better. So it was a rough time. But at the same time, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have learned what I learned now. And I wouldn't be able to make sure that anyone I work with doesn't have to go through that themselves. It's those signs to look out for, as you say, and making sure that you catch it and you aren't doing the things that are going to lead you to that in the first place.
Yeah, it's so important. And the other thing that I think is really important that you said was this connection between, oh, because again, I had the same experience. Oh, I'm making more money than I ever have. And it means
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
everybody is, all of the marketing that you see is all like, oh, I'm going to get you to make this much money. And I'm so tired of this because I'm like, I don't care, because it's not about that. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, sure. Yes, this is great. Making money is great, but not if that's how you're feeling when you're doing it, because then it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah. You're told it's going to feel a certain way. And I mean, it should. I come from a very working class background. I've never had the privilege of having disposable income or anything like that. So it should have had that extra feeling of like, wow, this is incredible, on top of it being an amazing achievement anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, who's never had wealth before, I expected it to feel a certain way. But because I wasn't doing it in a way that felt good, because I was heading for burnout, because things weren't aligned, I remember looking, like getting my first ever £5,000 month. And it all came from one client, actually. At the start of a month, I signed a client. And I remember just looking at my bank balance and thinking, oh, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, me before that would have been just so overwhelmed and excited and so hyped to see that. But because of where I was mentally, it just didn't feel like I'd expected it to feel. It didn't feel like the content that you see telling you to create a 10K month, a 20K month. For me, when it actually happened and I'm looking at these figures, it all comes down to that. Okay, but why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want a
Uh-huh.
5K month? Why
Right.
do you want a 10K month? What
Right.
does that mean to you? And how do you want to do it in a way that feels good and that
Mm-hmm.
it does have the feelings that you're expecting it? Because it is amazing, but you need it to feel that way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the money for? Exactly. The money is a tool and it needs a
Mm-hmm.
purpose. And you're like, this is my plan for it, and this is what I want to do. Otherwise, it's just empty, and it's like, like exactly what you were saying. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get to a more happier portion of. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the lead up, and then you pivoted into a whole different thing, into marketing and messaging coaching. So
Mm-hmm.
I am sure that there was a whole process involved in this. And so, can you take us through what led you? So after this burnout, so you took 3 months off. That was significant. Did you stop
Mm-hmm.
doing like any work at all? Did you close out all of your clients? What was happening in that time?
So I kept my clients that I had. So I had 2 or 3 clients that I was still showing up for, that I was still completing the work, but I wasn't showing up on social media. I wasn't doing any outreach, any lead generation or anything. I was just serving, basically doing the bare minimum of what I needed to do for my my business to run
Mhm.
and for my clients to still have that client experience. I was showing up for them, but I wasn't doing anything else in terms of lead generation, showing on social media, anything. And that really helped because then I also had this time back to reevaluate and look at the clients that I was working with and which ones felt aligned and what felt good. What did I enjoy? Like what brought me joy? Not just what brought me the most financially, but what brought me the most in terms of like my heart and my soul and how I feel about my business and getting back to that point. And so, as I say, I was just doing this work for the 3 clients that I had at the time on retainer. And then I did a lot of reflecting. I took a lot of long walks, headphones in, listening to podcasts, listening to music, just feeling things out, just going back to that reason of why I started my business and what that meant and how that needed to look. I talked to a lot of friends, I talked to my husband, and it was really just like redefining what it meant for me to have my business and what life I was trying to create with that, and getting back to a place where mentally I felt good again. I felt strong again. And that did take 3 months. But I feel like
Yeah.
mental health in business is something that needs to be taken so seriously because it can be quite lonely as well. And it can be filled with pressure. And so I really wanted to take the time to make sure that I didn't just feel okay and came back. I wanted to feel strong before I came back and certain and have this clarity. And so when I did, I also reached out to a coach who I'd known as like a friend for quite a while, and she was mindset coach, and I did work with her as well. So I think just like re coming back into yourself and what you enjoy and what lights you up and what you stand for, and speaking to people around you, whether that's people in your life or a coach or friends you've made in the online business space, that really helped me gain clarity on what I needed and wanted my business to look like moving forward.
That's beautiful. And yeah, I 100% agree. Of course, I 100% agree with everything that you're saying because we've determined that we're the
We're
same.
just the same
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, so finding an aligned coach, finding, getting rid of the noise and just returning to yourself and creating the space. It really sounds like you created the space. You were out in nature, you really got back in touch with yourself, what you actually wanted, and had other people around you to be able to support you in that time. And you didn't rush back. You took the time necessary to become realigned so you could, like you said, be strong and start back in and feel good about it. Not just like, okay, I'm here, because I'm sure that if you hadn't done that, you would have just slidden down the slope again, like back into
Exactly.
burnout. So was it at this time that you just switched everything into coaching, or what did that actual pivot look like?
So when I was focusing and talking about what it was that lit me up,
Mm-hmm.
and I also looked at my most aligned clients, so who I enjoyed working with the most, who it felt the best to work with, what they all had in common with each other and with me that made it feel so right. And those things together, I came to the conclusion that a lot of people, more and more people, were coming to me for strategy and for coaching rather than done for you. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
take on done for you clients, and then there'd be a point where they'd be like, oh, I'm having this struggle today in my business, or my messaging, this just doesn't feel right. And we'd look at it together, and I'd automatically know, just because of who I am as a person. I'm very intuitive, I'm very sensitive, I'm connected. I already automatically knew what questions to ask them,
Mm-hmm.
which ways to lean the conversations for them to discover the answers that they already had. And so I was coaching without realizing I was coaching. And people were coming to me from recommendations of, oh, I can see that you do these done for you services, but do you offer strategy sessions? Do you offer a one-off call to help me discover X, Y, Z? And I would realize that the people that felt most aligned, the recommendations I was getting from them, the calls that I love showing up for, the services that I love doing, it was all based around coaching and mentorship. And I've always been that person in my friendship group of like the go-to for advice and support. And I realized that I had this incredible tool that I was accidentally using in my business, like without realizing how special it was. And so naturally, people started coming to me for coaching and mentorship without me even promoting it. And when I did that work to reconnect and look at what felt good, that was what stood out for me, helping people in this way, using my abilities to connect with people and my intuition and this ability to feel things out in situations and understand people. Those things felt really good and they were what people were coming to me for. And so I naturally started exploring coaching and mentorship. Started out with one-to-one sessions. They quickly got booked out and I started signing people from them into one-to-one coaching. And then from there, I've really been opening up like different offers and growing my business in line with that, always coming back to that root of like what feels really good and who's most aligned.
So, so the story is, yeah, it's really cool. And the thing that I find too when I talk to people, when I talk to my clients about, oh, like, what's your unique magic? Like, let's figure out what's that thing. It's always a thing that you don't realize that is special about you because it comes easy to you. So it can be difficult on your own to figure out what is that thing. What's that thing that you're so good at, that thing that you love, the thing that feels in flow, the thing that energizes you without this really purposeful introspection because it's easy for you and you think, oh, but everybody can do that. And it's so interesting when you're like, oh, not everybody can do that, right? Like everybody's magic is different. And
Exactly.
yeah. And so was it, or it sounds like it was a combination of a lot of things that helped you figure out what that magic is for you. That like coaching
Yeah.
was where it was like the thing.
Yeah, it was what people were coming to me for, as I
Mm-hmm.
say, without me even talking about, without me even
Yeah.
noticing. And it was something I've been doing my whole life with family and friends, not obviously coaching, but the way that you have those conversations and you ask questions. And I've actually talked about this recently on Instagram that I've been told my entire life that I'm too sensitive. And I always took that
Mm-hmm.
as a really negative thing. But for me, when I was doing this process of like realigning my business and recovering from burnout, I realized then that being too sensitive is actually, as I like to call it, my superpower, because it is that thing that you have that you don't realize not everybody has. It allows me to be super in tune with people and emotions and understand situations very quickly. It helps me to be incredibly empathetic. So I can understand situations where my clients need me, but I'm also there to like celebrate their wins. I can figure out what their audience need to see and hear from them in order to feel activated. And it's these things, like you say, that for me was something that I always thought was a part of me that maybe was negative, but actually it's become such a huge part of my business. And I say this to my clients in helping them discover that special part about themselves, their unique energy, their power, is that there'll be something about you that you either don't realize, or maybe you've been told is too much in the past. And that is actually the thing that you can offer your audience and that's going to make you stand out to dream clients.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
Mhm.
So now, when was this transition? How long ago was it?
So the start of last year is when I hit my burnout and I was recovering. So it's been about a year now that
Okay.
I've fully been back in my business and building things the way I want to.
Very cool. So in this year period where now you're like, okay, I get how to do this. We're doing this in an aligned way. We're doing this. We're feeling into it, being more intuitive, blocking out all of this other noise. When
Mhm.
you are making decisions, what is it? What is your process in terms of, okay, like what should I do? You know, I want to launch something new or have this idea. What is your process in knowing that for you, this is the right way? This is the way to go.
Mhm. So I often get like downloads or ideas when I'm in places that connect with me. So for me, it's often when I'm walking, when I'm in nature. For
Mm-hmm.
everybody, it's different. And as my client says, one she always, whenever she's on the treadmill, she gets these downloads. So
Yep.
find your space, that space where you get this inspiration. And this is mostly the time where my ideas come to me. Sometimes they come off the back of conversations. And then I sit with it. I used to be quite impulsive and be like, okay, does this work with what everyone else is doing? But I sit with it and feel it out. And I ask myself specific questions of, first of all, does this thing feel good? Does it feel good, like in my heart, in my soul, in my body? Does it feel like a good business decision? Does it feel like a good decision for me? Then, will this take me closer to where I want to be? So, getting really clear on that vision of the life I want to create. Does this, whatever it is, it's an offer, it's just a decision, a pivot, does that take me closer to where I want to be in the kind of life I want to be living? And then does it embody what I stand for and what I help my clients achieve? So asking yourself those questions to make sure that this idea, this suggestion, this pivot aligns with where you are at, your values, what you stand for, your clients, and where you want to be. So I always check in on those things and make sure that it is going to take me to those places and that it's going to feel really good while I'm doing it.
Do you know what I'm going to tell you, right? I'm going to tell you that
You do the same.
now versus, so I want to give an example because I think that this helps, right? To like really kind of like, okay, this is what this looks like. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when I first started coaching, not when I first started, but when I created my first group program, I was like, okay, I'm going to create like a 4-week, just like group. We meet twice a week. Like I give them all the information, like, let's go. And like, because I don't know why, right? Because like, I was like, let's do this. And very good program. You know, I'm not knocking it. I served, I did my thing. But I realized that that's not me. Like
Mm-hmm.
what I value is the actual deep transformation, and this tiny container where there's not time for that to actually like hold somebody through the transformation is not aligned with me and where I serve the best. So then in my next group program, the one that I'm running now, it's 6 months long. It's a 6 month long container where we go through, you know, like the whole transformation because that's what feels good for me. That's where I like to serve people. Like I felt like not empty, but like almost empty. Like, okay, like there you go. Here's all the stuff you need. Now go run with it. I didn't feel like I was serving
Yeah.
people the way that I like wanted to serve people, but I didn't realize that at the time. So that's where like the sitting and these making these decisions of, and the exact process that you said was amazing summary. And I put you on the spot for that. I did not prepare you. So really good job of, you know, asking yourself, like, how does it feel? Like, how does this align with my vision? Like, am I serving people the way that I want to serve? Like, you know, all of these things, like it's so important because of this exact reason. And I love that you summarized that so succinctly.
Yeah. I think as well, like you say about that program that you did and you didn't have a reason behind it and you just did it. I feel like we all have times and moments and offers in our business like that, but it's important not to, put yourself down for that because owning a business is just one big journey. And we are going to have offers that don't always work out the way we expected. And it is a process of like trial and error
Oh
and
yeah.
discover. I feel like sometimes to discover what you want and to discover what feels good, you have to try things. And it's all part of the process in that if something hasn't worked out, don't beat yourself up about it. It doesn't have to mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about your expertise or your ability.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we all need to try these things
Oh
and
yeah.
we can learn from that. And that's the important thing, that if you make mistakes or you have like say, a program that it was fine, you put your heart into it, but it didn't feel how you expected it to, learn from that. As long as you learn from these things and then apply them to your business, that's a win for me.
Oh, 100%. The only failure is giving up.
100%.
That's the
Yeah, I
only
agree.
failure. So so what do you do now? What are your current offers? What are you doing in your business? How do you help your people?
So I now help people build marketing strategies and craft their messaging in a way that helps them unlock these big money shifts, but in a way that is really aligned and in a way that they become known for who they are as well as what they do. So I offer one-to-one coaching, which is a 12-week program to begin with, can be more. I have a lot of people stay on with me for longer. And that's really, really tailored to your unique vision, your business, because of everything that we've talked about. Everybody is different. How to scale in a way that serves you as well as helps you reach these goals and create the life that you started your business for. So that is the heart and soul of my business, is my one-to-one coaching. I also offer one-to-one messaging mastery sessions. So really digging deep into messaging and positioning and helping people speak to their audience in a way, again, that feels really good and calls in these dream clients on repeat. And I am also working at the moment on a group container of some sort, but it is a work in process because of everything we've said. I want it to be right. I want it to feel really good. I'm speaking to my audience, I'm speaking to my clients. I'm in this process of feeling stuff out, which is super, super exciting. And that's something that I'm going to be introducing as well. But as we say, I want it to be right. I want it to feel really good.
Love it. Amazing. So you guys would be remiss if you want to get into marketing messaging, really refine that and not talk to Abby. Just in this conversation, I'm already convinced that like go to her and talk about this. Where can we connect with you? Any gifts, anything like that, please share.
So I hang out most on Instagram and Threads, and my handle there is abby.mckendry. You can also find out more about me, my offers on my website, which is abbymckendry.com. And I'm always open for DMs, conversations. I'm all about connection. So if anybody does have any questions or anything about what I've said, my story resonates, please reach out because I'm always up for new connections and conversations.
Amazing. Thank you so much. My counterpart, my marketing counterpart to all of this. This is so exciting. And thank you for sharing and really being vulnerable and diving deep into everything. I think that there are so many nuggets in here that are so useful for everybody. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love what you do. So it's been so good to be part of it.